Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, today I want to speak about something fundamental, powerful, and often misunderstood. Sex is your life force. Sexual energy is not merely about physical pleasure or reproduction. It is the vital energy that drives creation, passion, ambition, and transformation in every human being. In every great piece of art, in every breakthrough invention, in every act of courage, you will find behind the scenes the raw fuel of sexual energy transmuted into purpose. Sexual energy is often narrowly viewed through the lens of physical desire and reproductive function, but its true nature is vastly more profound and far-seeming. At its core, sexual energy is the raw primal force that drives creation at every level, from the formation of life in the womb to the birth of ideas, innovations, and art. It is the fire that fuels our very existence, encoded deep within our biology and consciousness. And every cell in our body carries the echo of this force, for it is the spark from which we were all conceived. It is not limited to the bedroom or the act of intimacy. It is the pulse of life itself, flowing through us every moment we are alive. Throughout history, countless mystics, scientists, and artists have acknowledged the extraordinary creative potential rooted in sexual energy. This energy, when harnessed properly, becomes the bedrock of genius and originality. Think of the great inventions, movements, and masterpieces that have changed the world. Behind many of them was a powerful current of passionate drive and desire. That energy, at its most elemental level, is sexual in nature. When we feel inspired, when we are turned on by an idea or a mission, it is this same force that is being activated and directed beyond the physical realm. It stirs the soul and motivates action in ways that mere logic or intellect never could. This life force does not need to be expressed solely through sex. In fact, some of the most powerful uses of it occur in non-physical forms. When sexual energy is consciously redirected, it becomes a potent fuel for ambition, creativity, and transformation. This process, often referred to as sexual transmutation by thinkers like Napoleon Hill, enables people to take the intensity of desire and channel it into work, dreams, relationships, and spiritual practices. Instead of being lost in momentary pleasure, the energy is elevated. It becomes refined and used to birth something far greater than temporary satisfaction. Moreover, when individuals begin to recognize and embrace their sexual energy as a creative and spiritual force, their entire perception of self begins to shift. They stop seeing their desires as shameful or distracting and instead start to view them as clues to their deepest potential. Sexual energy becomes the compass pointing toward what excites them, what moves them, and what they are meant to create in the world. It is no longer just about the act, but about the purpose that act reveals. In this way, sexuality is not just a human function, It is the foundation of personal power, inner truth, and limitless creativity. From a young age, many people are conditioned to view sexuality through a lens of shame, guilt, or secrecy. Cultural, religious, and societal norms often frame sexual desire as something to be hidden or controlled rather than embraced and understood. This constant repression creates an internal conflict where individuals are taught to deny a natural and essential part of themselves. As a result, people grow up disconnected from their own bodies, confused about their desires, and often carrying emotional scars that linger into adulthood. This disconnection is not just psychological. It begins to erode their sense of identity, self-worth, and inner authority. When sexuality is repressed, it creates an energetic blockage within the individual. The same force that is meant to inspire movement, joy, creativity, and purpose becomes stagnant, trapped beneath layers of denial and fear. This suppression can manifest in a variety of ways, from depression and low self-esteem to chronic fatigue and creative blockages. A person who is afraid or ashamed of their own sexual nature is often unable to fully express themselves, both in personal relationships and in the larger world. Their true voice remains muffled, their confidence limited, and their ability to feel fully alive is compromised. They become passive observers of life rather than active participants. This fear of sexuality also leads to a profound sense of alienation, not just from others, but from the self. When we are taught to view our sexual thoughts or feelings as wrong, we begin to mistrust our instincts, question our passions, and second-guess our inner compass. Over time, this disconnect becomes a barrier to growth, happiness, and personal fulfillment. People may find themselves stuck in unfulfilling relationships, chasing superficial goals, or living lives that feel numb and uninspired. They may appear functional on the outside, yet deep within, they feel a hollow emptiness, a sense that something essential is missing. Restoring this lost connection begins with recognizing that sexuality is not an enemy. It is a part of the self that longs to be acknowledged, accepted, and integrated. When individuals are allowed to explore and express their sexuality in healthy, conscious ways, they begin to reclaim their power. Vitality returns, confidence blossoms, creativity surges. The very act of embracing one's sexual energy becomes a declaration of self-love and personal freedom. Instead of living in fear, they see more implemented the full self, which always theirs to embody. Awakening sexual energy is not simply about indulging in physical sensations or chasing momentary pleasure. Cultivating a conscious relationship with you, the most powerful force that can lead to profound healing and personal criterion. Many individuals go through life disconnected from this energy, either misusing it without understanding or suppressing it out of fear or conditioning But the moment they begin to engage with it mindfully, through breathwork, movement, connection, or sacred practices, they open the door to a new level of inner awareness. This conscious engagement with sexual energy can be incredibly healing both emotionally and physically. Sexual trauma, shame, and guilt are often stored in the body, especially in the pelvic and lower abdominal regions. When people begin to awaken their energy with gentleness and respect, they often begin to release deep-seated emotional wounds that have been buried for years. The body responds to this process not with resistance, but with relief, as if it has been waiting to be seen and honored. This release doesn't just improve one's intimate life, it also affects mental clarity, emotional stability, and overall physical health. Healing becomes possible because the energy is no longer stagnant. It flows freely as it was meant to. Growth emerges naturally when sexual energy is awakened with purpose. People begin to feel more confident, more passionate, and more alive. Their creative impulses are stronger, their emotional responses more balanced, and their ability to connect with others more profound. With this energy now active and available, they often experience a surge in motivation, drive, and curiosity. They are no longer bound by fear or repression, but empowered by an inner flame that lights the way forward. This isn't about becoming more sexual. It's about becoming more whole, more attuned to oneself, and more capable of showing up fully in every area of life. A fulfilling life is not built on external achievements alone. They rooted in inner vitality, not just reactions to societal expectations or 100 reactions consistency. There are so many stress. They are regulated by freedom, integrity, and life control. The presence of awakened sexual energy infuses everything they do with purpose and depth. It is no longer a hidden or neglected part of them. It becomes a guiding force that empowers them to heal the past, grow in the present, and shape a future that truly reflects who they are. Sexual transmutation is a concept that has existed across ancient traditions and modern philosophies alike, and it refers to the redirection of sexual energy toward non-sexual purposes, particularly those that elevate the mind and spirit. Rather than being dissipated solely through physical expression, this vital energy is consciously harnessed and transformed into a creative, intellectual, or spiritual force. This process does not imply rejection of sexuality, but instead a deeper mastery over it, understanding that the very same energy that drives physical desire can be used to fuel genius, passion projects, and personal evolution. It is the conscious transformation of base impulses into high-level achievements. Throughout history, individuals who have made lasting impacts in the world, from artists and philosophers to inventors and leaders, have intuitively practiced sexual transmutation. They may not have always used the term, but they understood the value of preserving and channeling their life force energy into pursuits that mattered. Leonardo da Vinci, Nikola Tesla, and even modern thinkers like Napoleon Hill emphasize the importance of harnessing sexual energy to ignite mental clarity, sharpen focus, and birth innovative ideas. These individuals chose not to squander this potent energy, but instead to refine and redirect it toward their purpose, creating legacies that transcended generations. The power of transmutation lies in its ability to help people access peak states of performance and creativity. When sexual energy is redirected with intention, it increases discipline, intensifies desire toward meaningful goals, and eliminates distractions that often come with overindulgence or unconscious behavior. Athletes, artists, monks, and entrepreneurs alike have used variations of this principle to achieve excellence. Instead of being a slave to their desires, they become the architects of their energy and, by extension, of their lives. The result is not deprivation, but empowerment. Spiritual growth also flourishes under the discipline of sexual transmutation. Many esoteric traditions, from Taoism and Tantra to yoga and Hermeticism, teach that sexual energy is sacred and, when elevated through conscious practices, becomes a force that opens the higher chakras and expands consciousness. It is through this process that the individual moves from lower impulses to higher states of awareness. Sexual transmutation, therefore, is not just about success in the worldly sense, it is also a sacred journey of inner alchemy. It allows individuals to evolve beyond primal needs and awaken to deeper truths, discovering a wellspring of energy that can be used to uplift themselves and others. From early childhood, most individuals are subjected to rigid societal norms and cultural taboos surrounding sex and sexuality, whether through religious doctrine, educational systems, or media portrayals. We are subtly and sometimes overtly taught that sex is something to be hidden, whispered about, or even feared. These early imprints often go unchallenged, seeping into our subconscious and shaping how we view ourselves and others. People grow up believing that their natural desires are sinful, dirty, or immoral. This conditioning doesn't just affect sexual behavior, it deeply influences our self-suken, emotional development, and ability to form authentic connections. The shame becomes internalized, creating a barrier to self-love and wholeness. As a result of this conditioning, many individuals enter adulthood with a distorted relationship to their sexuality. They may struggle with guilt, repression, or secrecy, even in consensual and loving relationships. For some, the shame is so deeply rooted that they disconnect entirely from their bodies and desires, living in a constant state of self-censor. Others may rebel against these norms in unhealthy or compulsive ways, driven more by the need to escape shame than to embrace authenticity. In either case, the societal shame surrounding sex deprives individuals of their right to experience intimacy, vulnerability, and pleasure as natural, empowering aspects of being human. It fragments their sense of identity and keeps them trapped in cycles of confusion or emotional pain. However, when individuals begin to confront this conditioning and challenge the inherited beliefs around sexuality, a powerful transformation takes place. By exploring their desires with mindfulness and compassion, free from judgment, they start to reclaim their personal truth. Maturity in this context doesn't mean restraint through fear, but freedom through understanding. It involves being able to speak honestly about desires, set boundaries without shame, and experience intimacy without guilt. This conscious embrace of sexuality becomes a revolutionary act of self-liberation. It's about standing in one's truth and honoring the body, mind, and spirit as interconnected, sacred parts of the human experience. Embracing sexuality with maturity ultimately leads to deep personal empowerment. People begin to realize that their sexual energy is not something to be feared or hidden, but something to be celebrated, respected, and directed with purpose. They start to move through the world with more confidence, authenticity, and emotional resilience. The very aspects of themselves that were once a source of shame become a source of strength. They begin to make choices that reflect their true desires, free from external pressure or guilt. In this empowered state, sexuality is no longer a taboo subject. It becomes a channel for joy, connection, and creative expression. Sexual energy, when approached with reverence and self-circumstance, becomes far more than a biological impulse. It transforms into a bridge between the physical and the emotional, the sensual and the spiritual. Honoring this energy means recognizing it not as something to exploit or fear, but as a sacred current that pulses within us all. When we respect its power and allow it to move through us consciously, we begin to cultivate a deeper connection with our own being. We tune into our bodies with presence, listen to our desires without judgment, and begin to heal the fractures created by societal conditioning and inner conflict. This honoring invites a return to wholeness, where every part of us, mind, body, and spirit, is welcomed and valued. This inner alignment has a profound impact on how we connect with others. Emotional intimacy is no longer confined to mere words or gestures. It is felt energetically through presence, eye contact, vulnerability, and touch. When two people meet from a place of mutual awareness, where sexual energy is respected rather than exploited, the connection that forms is deeper, more expansive, and rooted in authenticity. There is a sacredness in the way partners hold space for each other's truth, fears, and desires. The encounter becomes an act of union that transcends physical pleasure, inviting emotional healing and spiritual elevation. This kind of intimacy can only arise when both individuals have done the inner work of honoring their own energy first. The spiritual dimension of sexual energy often goes unacknowledged in mainstream discussions, but it has been recognized and revered for centuries in many ancient traditions. Practices such as Tantra, Taoist sexual alchemy, and certain yogic philosophies teach that sexual energy is a divine force, one that can awaken higher states of consciousness, unlock the heart, and even lead to enlightenment when guided with intention. In these traditions, the orgasm is not just a climax, but a spiritual opening, a moment where the ego dissolves and the soul glimpses something eternal. Honoring sexual energy in this context means embracing it as a path to the divine, not outside of us, but within. Moreover, this respectful approach to sexual energy fosters self-love on a much deeper level. When a person learns to connect with their own sensuality, not through performance or pressure, but through presence, they begin to feel more whole. They stop seeking validation or approval through external encounters and instead cultivate a rich, fulfilling relationship with themselves. This self-connection creates emotional resilience, spiritual clarity, and a stronger sense of inner peace. It is from this place of fullness they need to chase love. They embody it. They embody it. They embody. They embody. They embody. They embody. They embody. Sex, in its deepest and most sacred essence, is not merely a physical act or an instinctual drive. It is the very force that gives rise to life. It is the origin of human existence, the power that creates not just new bodies, but new emotions, bonds, ideas, and energies. When viewed through this sacred lens, sex becomes more than an action. It becomes an expression of the universe's creative intelligence working through us. This recognition transforms our perception entirely. Instead of reducing it to a taboo subject or an entertainment outlet, we begin to treat sex with the reverence it deserves. As a ritual of connection, an act of creation, and a mirror of life's deeper truths. Misusing or suppressing this energy can have consequences that extend far beyond the bedroom. When sex is treated casually or exploited without awareness, it loses its sacredness and can become a source of emptiness, confusion, or even emotional harm. Similarly, when it is suppressed due to fear, shame, or societal control, it leads to psychological imbalances, repressed desires, and disconnection from the self. In either case, the natural flow of life force becomes obstructed. Sexual energy is meant to move, evolve, and nourish all aspects of our being, physically, emotionally, spiritually. When this current is honored rather than distorted, it becomes a source of vitality and balance that uplifts every area of life. Understanding sex as a core energy of existence invites us to shift from a place of judgment to one of inquiry, from suppression to sacred exploration. Why does this force exist within us so powerfully? Why does it stir our emotions, influence our relationships, and impact our sense of purpose? These questions reveal that sexuality is not something to fix or hide. It is something to explore with reverence. It is a teacher. It shows us where we are free and where we are trapped, where we love and where we fear, where we trust and where we are guarded. When we begin to work with this energy consciously, we learn how to cultivate presence, deepen intimacy, and awaken to layers of our humanity that are often overlooked. When sex is approached as sacred, it becomes a profound tool for transformation. It can heal emotional wounds, unlock blocked creativity, and even awaken spiritual insight. It brings us into the present moment like few other experiences can, asking us to let go of ego and control and instead surrender to connection, vulnerability, and flow. This surrender, far from being weak, is powerful. It brings us face to face with the raw truth of who we are. It reminds us that sex, at its core, is not about performance or power. It is about presence, union, and life itself. To honor sex is to honor the very force that breathes life into the world, making it not just a human function, but a sacred responsibility. In honoring our sexual energy as sacred, we reclaim a part of ourselves that has long been misunderstood, feared, or diminished. This energy is not something separate from who we are. It is the pulse of our creativity, the fire behind our purpose, and the doorway to deeper emotional and spiritual truth. When we move beyond shame and step into conscious awareness, we awaken a power that can transform our lives from the inside out. By respecting, embracing, and channeling this life force, we begin to live with more authenticity, joy, and connection. In doing so, we don't just elevate our experience of sex, we elevate our experience of life itself.